guest tonight was the sexy blonde rocker of the 70s. She helped define an era and is still growing strong. Welcome, Deborah Harry. Hey, Deborah, thanks for coming on. I read somewhere that you were adopted.
Mm-hmm.
And that you fantasized that your birth mother looked like Marilyn Monroe, right?
Well, yes, I did. I fantasized a lot about that.
What age?
Probably not till I was, you know, almost a teenager, I would think. I don't think I was probably aware of her until then. But I found out later on that a lot of adopted girls had the same fantasy. I guess because she was, you know, sort of had that waif-like, you know, mysterious quality about her, you know, that she was adopted or a foster child. And I think that a lot of us just associated with that.
Identified with her.
Yeah.
And also she was sort of a lost spirit of femininity, somehow, unprotected femininity.
Yeah, she had that vulnerability about her.
And probably whether we're unprotected or not, we all feel it.
Yeah.
How old were you when you found out you were adopted?
I think I was around 4.
That's early.
Maybe younger. I could have been younger. I know that they told me in a bedtime story, so those were when I was quite young.
I was asking you about all that because it seemed that you had transformed a lot about yourself so many different times, and that maybe that had a lot to do with it in some way.
I think so. I felt like I really was at a loss for an identity in some ways. You know, I really didn't know who I was.
You were raised in Catholicism, right?
Yeah.
Very big for separating spirituality. I mean, it's the Madonna whore idea, right? You've got to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
Be one or be the other. You can't enjoy sex and be a good woman, or a pure woman. How'd you get out of there?
Well, I guess I just got angry, you know. I think I was just angry about it, the whole thing, and in pain, I guess, you know. Pain is...
Yeah, who wants to be a Madonna or a whore? I mean, you know, it's just neither one is a very good choice.
Well, see, I was so desperate to, you know, to discover myself. You know, all these things became incidental, really. I mean, they were just in my way, in my face, and painful. And I just, you know, there was no other alternative for me. Now I think about it and I think, my God, I really don't have anything to do and I'm very tired.
We fought a lot of wars, sweetheart. There was a lot of action going on in those days because basically we were the first generation of women to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Allowed to do it.
Well, I think now, you know, carrying this stuff out is, and really, you know, really being organized about it is such an impossible job.
How do you mean? What do you mean?
It's like learning to do computers or something, you know. It's just like, you know, working out all the, you know, the details and just carrying it out. It's like... I think I prefer, you know, like being, you know, a spear thrower and running out there, you know, like a mad dog. And I prefer that than having to sit down and work it all out.
Yeah. You mean the chaos of
I prefer the chaos, yes.
The chaos of youth. You grew up 20 miles outside of Manhattan? In, where was it?
Hawthorne, New Jersey.
Hawthorne, New Jersey, suburbs. Your music crossed a lot of lines and was first in a lot of things, but it seems like a lot of it is some scream against the suburbs.
When I started doing it, it was definitely the forbidden art form, or, you know, the expression of the rebellious youth.
Bad kids.
And the clandestine, forbidden everything, you know. So, I mean, that made it all the more, you know, enticing. It was just the perfect thing for me. So.
What would you do? You would rush in from the city and be bad? How did it work?
I don't know. I don't know if I was actually just bad. It just, you know, the idea that I was listening to this and it was really making an impression on me.
What were you listening to in the beginning?
Well, I don't know. I guess black music, you know, R&B. I think that was probably the big, you know, cultural phenomenon, that it was, you know, crossing over the racial lines. And that's, I mean, that's what all the hubbub was in Congress, you know, back in the real early times of
they
rock.
didn't want white kids listening to black music.
Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It was all racial. But talk about the middle class, I think now I've started doing jazz, and I think that the jazz is even more middle class which is
What
totally
do you mean?
shocking.
Because
to me.
it's a very intellectual kind of music, so it has to, people have to have leisure to understand it or something?
Yeah, and you have to study.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be you have to go to school, and that's very middle class. Even though it's all about breaking the rules, which is exciting. I like it for that aspect. But I mean, the level of intellect that it takes to actually perform it.
You had a brief interlude with junk.
Yes, I did. I think it was probably in the late 60s, at the end of the 60s.
Before Blondie.
Yeah. I actually was very fortunate, and during the time, any of the times that I've been working, I never got involved with any substances. It's always when I'm sort of at loose ends,
Right.
you know, that I have, you know, that I get in trouble. And that seems to be over.
Yeah, do
Thank
you remember kicking? Or
Yes.
What was it like?
Yes.
What was it like?
It's disgusting,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, and at that point, I don't think there was as much information and, you know, social awareness of, you know, like it not being such a... I mean, I went to a clinic back in the 60s to kick, and they told me that since I wasn't, you know, mainlining it, and I hadn't been on it for 20 years, that I couldn't get into a clinic.
You mean you were snorting, so
Yeah.
they wouldn't let you in the clinic?
I was just a kid, you know, I was just a kid, and I wasn't a hardline drug user at the time, but, you know, I mean, I was a fledgling, and they just said, well, I'm sorry, we can't, you know, we can't take you into
So what
this.
did they do, just lock you up in a room or something, or you locked yourself
No,
up?
I just, you know,
Yeah.
did that.
The thing that I think that they don't do about any kind of drug information, I mean, you know how little information there was when we were kids about it. And now there's this huge body of information about all kinds of drugs. Yet you talk to kids in their 20s, they know barely anything more than I did when I was in my 20s. And one of the first things that they should tell kids about is there are certain drugs that they're going to love no matter who they are. Nancy Reagan would love heroin. I mean, there's almost no one who wouldn't love it. And that's the first thing they should tell you.
Everyone's different about it. There are people that don't respond well to it.
Your body will like it whether you like it or not. Your body will like it soon enough.
Yeah.
It just seems to me in drug education, that's one of the things they should tell kids. We have some things in common. We were in a couple of sororities together.
We were? Oh, yeah, Max.
I was a lunch bunny.
The lunch
And then there's the lunch bunnies. Max's. Although I didn't get to be one of the great Max's waitresses. You were a waitress at Max's, right?
What a treat, yeah.
Did you serve the back room?
I did the back room.
You took care of the back room.
It's
special. That was the room. That's where Andy hung out.
You never made money in the back room.
No, nobody tipped you, and they were always just jumping on the table and tearing off their clothes.
And they were really rude and horrible and
grotesque.
Nasty, yes.
What was the wildest thing that happened at Max's? I'll tell you. You tell me your worst Max's story. I'll tell you mine.
Oh, God. It was really, I guess the action in the phone booth with Eric was probably my wildest moment.
What was that?
Sexual. I mean, we just had sex in the phone booth.
You made it with Eric Erickson in the phone booth?
Eric Emerson.
While you were supposed to be working?
Probably.
While you were on duty?
Yeah, probably.
Well, the wildest thing I ever saw was when, who was the painter? Someone threw a plate glass window.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Neil Williams.
Neil Williams, yeah.
Neil Williams picked up a girl and threw her.
Ooh.
She didn't get hurt at all. Not a bruise. Everyone rushing out outside. She didn't have a bruise on her. Not hurt, not nothing. When did Blondie start? When did you meet Chris?
That I sort of dropped out of the music business after, you know, after that first band thing, and then, you know, worked at Max's, and then after Max's, I worked as a lunch bunny.
Right.
And a dinner bunny as well. But I didn't meet up with Chris until '73. I had joined a little trio called the Stilettos, and that's a funny story. I went to Max's, and I saw an old friend of mine, Elda, and I said, well, what are you doing? She said, I have a band with Holly Woodlawn. And I said, great, I want to come and see it. She said, I said, well, what's it called? She said, Pure Garbage. So I said, oh, I got to see this, you know, great. So then I called her, and she said, oh, the band broke up. I said, well, that's terrible, you know, why don't we start another one? So we started the Stilettos.
So in '73, you, Chris, after the Stilettos, and after...
I think Chris was actually in the Stilettos.
He was?
Yeah. He joined up, and he was playing backup, and then we split off and went our own way.
Was it hard to work with professionally with the man you loved?
At some point, I think for the first 2 years, it was pretty difficult. We were fighting, you know, we would fight a lot. But I think that what I've discovered is that in most male-female relationships, or probably any relationships that are that intense, it takes about 2 years to get over the, you know, to establish the barriers and where you can move next to each other.
You mean establish territories?
Yeah,
They're
you know,
yours and theirs, or what do you
yeah.
mean establish barriers to get over?
You know, sort of the extents of how far you can push and when you have to give way, and you know, the sort of
To keep it.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting because you're basically, you know, you're playing with another species. It's not like being with your own. You're dealing with something really foreign.
Yeah.
If you're with the other sex. It's a tough
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
I think it's a real tough one.
Well, I think it's always
Heard
easy
about
to
them.
give love, you know? And if that's really, if you can just concentrate on that, then sometimes you get some surprises in the way that it comes back. But I don't know, when you walk around with expectations, then, you know, everything falls short. So I think you have to be very demonstrative. And that's what I sort of discovered as a performer, that, you know, you just have to give it out. Just throw it away. Just give it out, and that's it.
And it's always been easy for you to give love?
No, no, no. But I mean, that was a major discovery for me. I mean, a real discovery that I could do that and that it would work, and that's what I had to do, you know, to get what I wanted. And even if I ran the risk of not getting what I wanted, I still had to do it that way. And then it started to work for me. Everything started to work. Although now I'm on a hate kick. And,
And it makes more sense, what?
Definitely.
Yeah. Was it competitive with you and Chris?
Oh, yes, everything. Competitive, you know, nurturing, whatever. I mean, we spurred each other on, you know, it was the whole deal.
You know, the talk downtown was Blondie was really at the height. And you were the first of the great, giant, big pop blondes. You know, you really were. You were as close as they got, and you were the first of them. And then suddenly, right at the height of it, you disappeared. And I was asking what went on, and everybody said, well, Debbie and Chris stopped touring because Chris is sick, and she's quit. And people were astounded that you stopped your career to take care of him. Because I think especially then, it was a consuming idea that if one had made it to fame and success, that was what was the most important thing. What did you feel about all that? How did that go down? How did that happen?
I felt like we were really partners in this thing. I really felt like we were almost one entity. And although, I mean, from the public point of view and from a business point of view, it would seem that I was the, you know, the thing to be sold, or the, you know, the whatever, the focus of the whole thing.
I would think that you were Blondie.
But we actually, you know, worked on it together and developed it, and many, many of the ideas were Chris's, especially the combinations of music and the crossover things.
Like from punk to pop, your music, and what else?
Well, bringing in the rap, doing things like that, doing Heart of Glass. I mean, these were all things that, you know, Chris was totally responsible for. And I felt that I didn't really want to be, I enjoyed the thought process. I mean, I love success and I love being, you know, a phenomenon, but I think what I really loved was the mind work of it. And
music.
Yeah, and you know, all the stuff that, you know, was inspirational to me. And, you know, I was really in love with Chris.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Well, you were very much admired downtown, my dear. You really were. Everybody said, boy, what a woman.
Oh, yeah.
What a woman. No, it's true. It's true. So, Blondie, you basically disbanded. And now you've started a solo career.
I have.
What are some of the challenges of starting off on a solo career after Blondie?
Well, For me, again, you know, like I had worked so hard on the identity thing and the whole focus of what Blondie was, that to drop that and to just be sort of myself was a bit, you know, scary.
What was the difference between you and Blondie? Was it a personal identification between you as a person and an image of people that people had of Blondie, or something else?
Well, I don't know. I think it was a character that sort of just really was apropos for the times. Obviously, it escalated with the way Madonna took it. But, you know, I really felt a need to express myself that way and to parody, you know, what, you know, femininity was, and to somehow, through satire, I suppose, make it look like, you know, to make people really see what they were doing to women and what was the, you know, what was this creation that we had sort of stepped into. And of course, I had to live that down myself, you know, and I had to understand it completely. So that was part of my exploration and, you know, my search.
So you basically created the music video, you and Chris,
well,
right?
no, not exactly.
No?
I wish that we did, but...
I thought you did.
Well, thank you, Lauren. I think...
my research
I think
says.
Smokey actually invented the music video, or, you know, some of the early bands really had them all over Europe because they couldn't travel, you know, and get their hits covered in the amount of time that they had. So videos were actually done in Europe a lot earlier, and they were just little things of the band performing in a studio or a soundstage somewhere, and then they would put them on these TV shows. So, but they weren't sold to the public, but they were actually music videos. And that's how they really started. And that's how mine started. Mine started because I couldn't always be on the top of the Pops when they needed me to be there. And
What is being on the Top of the Pops?
Top of the Pops is a big English countdown show, you know, with the top 10.
TV show.
Yeah.
Right.
So you would have to make an appearance, and there was this whole sort of situation where, you know, you had to, you know, be on the show, and otherwise your song, I don't know, you couldn't be in the top 10 or something. Yeah.
This sounds grisly. It's a little like my life.
Yeah.
Here, you want some more grapes?
More grapes.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I cooked these.
Ignore it.
Okay.
So how hard did you work in those days? I mean, it
Like
must have
a
just-
dog.
Yeah, it must have
As a
been
matter of fact,
constant.
Blondie was Hitler's dog.
It was Hitler's dog?
Yeah. See, that was our alter ego. We used to perform under the name of Hitler's dog. See, Blondie really was Hitler's dog.
That wasn't the name of
A
Hitler's
German
dog.
Shepherd, yes.
His name was Blondie.
Blondie, yeah.
Aha. One time when I hung out with you at the Chateau Marmont, back in the 70s, I did your makeup. Do you remember
Yes,
this?
I do remember that, yeah.
All right. I remember that. Chris had just come back and he had all this stuff from some weird shop he found in the valley that he was just besotted by.
Yeah.
It was all like Hitler youth knives and all this weird stuff from,
Yeah.
I guess it was a neo-Nazi shop, right? Or what was it?
No, that was a war museum and store that this guy had a tremendous collection of fascist and Nazi regalia, and Chris went down there many, many times. I mean, he was really into collecting all that stuff, and it was like so funny because, I mean, he's such a Jewish boy from Brooklyn, and you know, to be so fascinated with all this Nazi stuff. But then, you know, one time he said, well, it's just, we won. You know, so I mean, he just had everything.
Does he still have some of that stuff?
I suppose so.
Good.
Yeah.
You see him?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Ask him if he's got some of that stuff. How do you think that women are depicted in the videos today? What do you think about the way they're depicted today for the most part?
Well, anything goes. I think there was a real big change that Madonna and Mary Lambert were very, very responsible for and very, very influential in creating. And that was to really lift the whole genre to a very professional, polished level. It was very nice.
And politics, in a way,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Getting into politics. Well, I was glad to see you again. Really.
Thanks for asking me.
Pleasure. Pleasure. I think I'll I'll give you the handshake across the grapes.
Okay, doke.
How's that?
That's terrific.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Oh, yeah,
Come
right.
again.